Hi, my name is Tim Braddock, and this is the demonstration of the interaction design programming assignment. I modified my game Ghost Tracker, and as you see here, there's a button over here that controls the mode that it's used in. We're first going to take a look at the Edge Touch feature. And you see the character there, and if you touch the center, you see it fires his zap. And to move him around, you need to touch the edges of the screen, and you can see that touching the top will move him forward, and turning him around you need to touch the sides, and then moving him back you need to touch the bottom. And again, touching the center causes him to fire his zap weapon. Now, going back, we'll go to the default one, which is the touch and drag control, and we'll just start that. Then you see that the controls are different. I'll touch the center, but nothing is happening. What you need to do with this version is to touch someplace and then drag it forward, and then you can move him around. We see the spawn point of the ghost, and then over here turn him around again, and whoop, right there we see a big billboard, and that's where I will demonstrate my camera. You notice there down here there will be a button that will show up when I get close to the billboard. And there it is. That has the standard advertisement on there. And then we have this button here. And I will start the camera. Now I have the lights turned out in the room, so hang on a minute and I will get that picture taken. And I paused the video so I could take a picture with the other device. And then we'll move the character closer and we'll take a look at the picture. And we see my mug up on the bulletin board. There we go. And get rotated. There we go. And that's my demonstration. Alright, in this next part of the video, I am going to discuss the code that I use to create my alterations to my game. Here we see the Unity game screen. We see the billboard in the back. We come over here to the code, and I have 5 code sections that I had altered. First off, I took out the GPS and compass features of the game, and in the home screen I added a simple button. The control mode is a simple toggle. It starts out assuming the touch and drag mode, and it creates a GUI button, and if you touch the button, it just toggles back and forth between the two modes. Next was the game screen. That's where the main game is played, and the main changes that I created in that section is right here. I added the touch events. In the original version of the game, I had the effect of where the zap would generate if you touch the screen. I continued to use that on the edges section or mode of the game, and what I did was I added a stop feature. I had the character moving forward and rotating, but I found that I needed to stop him when the touch ended, and that's what I did there. And then in the next section, what it does is it looks at a section of the screen called the control height. And what I basically did is I divided it up into a 16 by 16 grid. North-south, it's 4 different ways, and east-west is 4 different ways. So 4 by 4, 16. And then when you touch that section of the upper portion or the lower portion of the screen, it will cause the character to move forward or backwards. And here's where the speed of the character is set based on whether you're touching that section of the screen. And then rotating the character based on whether you're touching the left or the right. And that's just a simple set of if statements and comparing the location where you're touched with that width that's allowable in the screen. The other type of control method was the control and drag, and that's what this section of code is about. What it does is it first detects whether you began touching the screen, and if you did, it will save the position as a variable called first touch, and it immediately sets last touch equal to first touch. But when you drag your finger across the screen, it will adjust that. And then if you keep your finger still on a position or move it, it will apply the new position to what's called the last touch. And then it compares the distance between the first touch and last touch. And if you drag your finger upward, it will move the character forward with a move speed of 1. And if you drag your finger downward, it will move the character backwards. And then if you don't change the position up or down, it will cause the character to stop. And then something similar for rotation. Left or right, if you drag your finger to the right, it will rotate them to the right. If you drag your finger to the left, it will rotate them to the left. And if you don't change the position of your finger in comparison to the first touch, it will stop turning him. And then finally, if you lift your finger up from the screen, it will stop moving and turning him at the same time. Okay. Now I have two sections of code. One is rotate character. One is the third-person controller to move him forward or backward. The rotate character is using the angle that he is facing and then applying a new angle. That angle is adjusted by 1 degree, but it works pretty fast on the tablet device. So it's not a real problem with it being controlled. And then what it does is it interpolates the previous heading and the new heading and creates a smooth turning event of the avatar. And that's what these lines down here are doing. And then it'll adjust the new heading as the previous heading. In the third-person controller, this is pretty simple. This is a conversion of the Unity-provided JavaScript code. What I did is I went to this website and converted it into C#, and it accesses the move forward and move back in the previous game screen code, and then it goes to the game screen and picks up the move speed. And the move speed is converted into a vector, and so whether it's positive or negative, he moves forward or backwards. And then finally, the photograph is completed with this. What I did is I created a billboard and then a board picture. The board picture has a very large sphere collider. When the player enters in that sphere collider section, the button appears in the corner of the screen. And let's see here. that's what this does right here. And then the button is right there. And then the text on the button alternates between take picture and start camera. It starts with start camera. Start camera turns on the camera, and you could see the animations while you're setting up the device to center on your face. And what it does is it opens up the camera and then applies the picture of the camera as a texture onto the plane that is the board picture. Okay, and then once that is set up, it changes it to take picture. Take picture is very simple. That's this code right here. It basically stops the camera from working, and the texture remains on the billboard. And then if the character leaves the area, that button is removed from the scene as well. And that's the basic gist of my code. I think between the two controller types for the sample game, my Ghost Tracker game, I think the touch and drag controllers were the most appropriate for that type of game. It seemed very fluid, being able to just touch some spot on the screen and being able to move the character by dragging your finger to different sections. I found the edge touch controls to be kind of cumbersome in the process of trying to move the character. It wasn't easy to turn them left and right, and switching up the different directions and so forth. I think the the edge touch type of control would be very appropriate for a simpler game that perhaps children could play, and maybe something that was more appropriate where the goal was to get forward really fast, or to just make come to a certain point in the game and make a decision to go left or right or something like that. Something where the field of play is somewhat more limited. I think that's something that the edge touch method would be more appropriate. The touch and drag felt very natural in a 3D environment, and just seemed a lot more intuitive in that type of situation. In my capstone project, I'm hoping to have something similar similar to the touch and drag controls. What I'm hoping to have is a screen where you're seeing the head of the back of the head of a squirrel, and you touch the squirrel and you can drag the squirrel's head in different directions, and it'll be very similar to the touch and drag controls that you saw in my Ghost Tracker game. One of the biggest things that I learned in this assignment was the way to use the different touch phases to apply different effects on controlling the characters. It seems like with the multiple ways the began stationary, moved, and ended ways, there's going to be a lot of potential for creativity and using interesting effects for the different ways that the touch events are detected. Thanks.